Hello and welcome to my continuing look at Cataph Southern Realms mod. In this video we're going to go to do a new unit breakdown. So I cover all the new units available to all 4 factions. Each faction can only use certain units. To signify this, on each unit at the top of the screen there will be a faction shield showing which faction can recruit this unit and field them on the battlefield. They will appear in the following order: Border Princes, Asteria, Tyria, and New World Colonies. This is the same order they appear in Mixed Use Faction Unyoka. There are more units available to each of these factions, but these are reskins of standard Empire units, so I don't need to cover them. Suffice to say, the Empire units, such as swordsmen, spearmen, etc., can be fielded by all armies. There is of course a whole suite of regiments of renown and some regiments of fame. These will be covered in a separate video as they're open to all factions, and this video will be quite lengthy as it is. So let's get on with the breakdown. Firstly, Cataph has made some other Yords to lead your armies, so we can start here with the High Eagle. A good melee Yord with an anti-arch bonus of 30 and 210 AP. Glancing over his stats, you can see he has no weaknesses, good armour, melee and defence, not exceptional, but being a non-name Yord, and of course he's a lot cheaper than makes him quite viable. Legion Courage is such a good ability, giving him anyone immune to psychology in 30 meters radius, perfect for getting even more out of the tier infantry who break easily due to these mechanics. With another buff bringing 20% around him in a 30 meter circle, very powerful and makes this Yord a much better fighting in the front line, or encouraging from a second rank looking for a spare target. And finally the Shield of Mermaidia, a very effective missile parry and armour boost. If you're getting your units harassed by some ranged firepower, pop this down and you can certainly buff their stats even more, making them highly effective and easily lasting that particular skirmish. There is also a hero character which has the same abilities as this one. Temple of Mermaidia just allows you to bring a cut down version just to supplement your attack or defence. Not as good in the melee as the High Eagle, the Inquisitor Yord is still reasonable in combat, but not a frontline fighter, and best to avoid hero units where possible. Usually best to run with someone to help protect him, but he's still not as vulnerable as a caster Yord, so massive micro is not needed. He does bring some nice abilities. First of all, Divine Power, making casters miss their cast 1 and 2 times. An underrated ability, but if you think about the Vampire Coast and the Counts who rely on their magic, keeping this unit close to their casters makes them much more valuable. Faith Bastion gives a button press to an emergency. 22% damage resistance is a handy thing to fall back on, and especially if you see a Source Obud heading your way with a mean look in his eye. Lastly, Judgment, a highly useful attack on a hero or Yord, doing extra damage but has a long cooldown of 90, so best used as soon as you can to get it back at the end of the fight. A unique Yord in many ways, a ranged one with an anti-arch of 30 but lacking AP damage at only 50. The Pathfinder sneaks around the battlefield sniping out targets or providing extra damage where needed. A Vanguard builds Dream, being cheap and allowing you to build a powerful army around him. Pretty handy in a fight, but has a weak melee defense, with a sneak ability allowing them to get really close and easy into the range of the 160, giving the character excellent stealth around the battlefield. Deception is a very curious ability, allowing kiting to be done with relative ease as long as you keep an eye on the Pathfinder. Cast it and a unit cannot chase you, and makes your escape much more likely, especially with that decreasing of visibility range, making it even harder to spot. Naturally, it's only on a human speed, so be careful when kiting. But that very handy cannot run mechanic even makes a human able to outsprint a lot of other characters. A true support character now, the weakest of any of the fighters mentioned, and only slightly better than caster Yords. Always run with someone to protect him, and then they can use his abilities to great effect. Protect Me gives units a big increase in skills and best powered with his guardians to be it a unit of crossbowmen or riflemen. A Paymaster Bodyguard also works well with this particular Yord, but there'll be more on that unit later. With a constant leadership debuff as well, always handy against your leadership factions, and Duplicari to stop some protection around the prince. This unit at first glance looks weak, but can be paired with units to complement his unit. And remember, the skill tree will be vital in how you develop the army he commands. We can begin the melee section with Dwarfs. Ever fancied mixing humans and dwarfs together? Well, you can with these particular factions. These are your standard dwarfs, and you can also field the Great Axes version as well. They are identical stats to your normal standard dwarfs, which you can recruit as normal with other dwarf factions, so I don't need to go into them in great detail. They bring their high leadership and their stubbornness, so are particularly strong in the front line as always. The pikemen are a specialist spearman unit, excelling with their very young pikes. Capable of stopping any charge with their expert defence, be it from melee or cavalry. Our fine units at 610, and you'll be relying on these sturdy units throughout your campaigns. With that 40 defence and reasonable armour at 60, the weakness is archer fire. Being slow to move, you need a good placement from the off to get the best out of these pike. Excellent flank defenders, and you can easily lock down the front line as well, with a huge 17 anti-charge bonus. They make short work of monsters and cavalry ike. You'll notice their AP is only 7, so be aware of heavy armoured foes. An excellent news, made even better with push-off spike pikes, boosting their melee attack for 15 seconds. An excellent ability, and mixing in a few spells, making pretty tough to break. But notice, leadership is only 62, so supporting units a must. The Adventurers unit brings a bit more damage to your front lines. A good all-round unit, and at 660 points, affordable. Being shielded, decent armour. They're not elite infantry by any means, but can hold their own against low rank infantry, and will excel at getting kills on chaff, with a high damage but low IP of 6. The limited number of the Paymaster Bodyguard are an excellent tough unit against any monsters or cavalry, with a high armour of nearly 100, AP of 20, and bonus versus yards of 6, making this an excellent unit to guard high value yards or wizards. Or just put them in the front line and flank with 2 pikemen to give a really high defense in front line. So with Encourage and some other abilities, Motivated Heroism adds a great melee attack buff all around at +8, high effective and making a great in front line buffing units. A fascinating ability next, with Grab What You Can. Usually active when leadership is low, adding great buffs to all around for 45 seconds, affecting more damage. Leadership and attack for 45, which can make your units hold a bit longer for backup to arrive, a really cool feature, and I usually have at least one of these units in all my 7 realms armies. One last debuff though, if leadership isn't debroken, then you debuff the entire map with -5 leadership, which is quite costly but can be managed. I remember the buff around them mentioned previously it makes this a really interesting unit with some really interesting choices. Like my name suggests, Greatsword Infantry are similar to the Empire faction, but are cheaper at 850 compared to 900 for the Empire. With yes, leadership, armour and health, they provide the same type of units for the Southern Realms. A good damage unit against any infantry, and brings a nice AP as well, which is always needed. An alternative to the Paymaster, without their unique abilities, the Republican Guard at 880 points is a strong anti-charge defensive unit, AP of 20 and anti-charge of 16, making them as good as the Paymasters, but a much larger unit size of 120. A great backline defence force, useful for protecting any cannons or important units. With Silver Shield and high armour, this is one of the best defence units in the Southern Realms. Yakking the AP of the other units of this type, with only 8, but still bringing 16 bonus versus yards, they're highly suited to defending against weak AP units. With all that armour and shield, a great frontline defence, and mix these with your pike, you can have a really solid front line, which with a lot of factions would be difficult to crack. With more armour, and small increases in stat across the board, but only have 100 troops, this unit, the Black Watch, is just an effective elite infantry at 1000 points, making them a tough unit to crack without really high armour values. Usually around to the very arse of the fight, it makes it a very viable unit to have any protection duties. Onto the missile infantry now, and we can start up with the cheapest of the cheap. Militia archers are only 375 and provide excellent cheap protection to units. Lacking the AP and a bit of range, this unit can just do the job on the battlefield. Similar to the Saratoga militia that the Vampire Coast can bring, these pirates are slightly weaker. That to say is that they've got reduction in leadership and armour, and yes, numbers at 100. They are at the same price at 450, but these are much more deadly at short range, with more damage on the missile attacks. Don't forget they can also mix up with a dirty fighting ability, but they do have a tendency to use against most infantry, and yes, it's the chaff of Warhammer, so don't expect too much. Always group them up with other attackers to make the best use of this particular ability. This makes them excellent flank attackers when fighting is joined, and can come in to add that debuff to really help drop that leadership. With 20 more range than the militia and better stats, the border rangers at 600 points are just a good solid upgrade and a fine use of archers. Being able to Vanguard deploy, these archers are just reasonable cost effective units, but lack the AP missile that a crossbow brings. An all round excellent unit for Vanguard builds. Missile units with a silver shield at 650 points, a great unit when facing a missile heavy faction. That shield blocking really doing some great work when it comes to incoming fire, and they can certainly send some bolts back. A nice rock of an infantry, and that shield really pays for itself if they ever get into that skirmish fight. Along with the old tier dwarf infantry, some rangers are made their way across the mountains, and they can also be fielded, bringing their unique stat line to your armies. Being those bod shields and more toughness make them very handy in any rank, and with that Vanguard can really expand your options there. At 720, 120 more units of handgunners. These Royal Guard are well worth the investment. The Royal Guard has better armour and leadership, backed up with solid AP damage on their missiles. Also a small increase in stats in all places. I cannot really see any reason not to take these over handgunners. They are just much better at surviving with their high armour. The Swashbucklers makes it an interesting choice but expensive at 940. These are just better versions of the pirates you saw before. Better armour and some great melee stats makes this a viable unit, but is nearly 500 more than those Saratoga units. Much more AP at 23, so getting into the heavy infantry makes this unit more viable. This is all based on what you're facing, but against some heavy armour units this can really make a surprising difference in the battle. And of course with the better melee stat values they can really get stuck in and charge the enemy, and apply that dirty fighting debuff, and actually do some damage while they're there. Onto the cavalry now, and first up we have a very silly cheap unit at only 500 points. The Light Riders can certainly do a job on the field with their speed. They need constant watching, unless you want a heavy Vanguard build where this unit can excel. I'd wait to get the next unit of Cav. They basically see a spear and they take damage, but they can take down arch units and any routing units. If you like some hard hitting fast Cav, the Answers are a great charging unit, coming in at 800 points. Lacking armour, but they do have bronze shield. They have not as devastating a charge as some units of Cav, but hold enough to be really damaged to your tier infantry. And only the quickest skirmishers can get away from this unit. A particular favourite of mine, but have to be careful as they melt easily. They're your armour in a prone fight means they will suffer damage, so pick your targets, and if you can isolate a weak target, even better. My go-to missile unit destroys in Southern Realms. One of those reasonable units who don't really excel at anything, the Knight Militia, have no bonus to infantry or yards. Their charge is okay but nothing special, but have decent armour and have decent melee stats. They can do a bit of work, but I feel they're better value units on this roster. But still, they're only 800, so don't really break the bank. For 100 more you can get full bones knights. These bring more to the table and are more viable, I feel. Good charge, and they can bring the wedge formation, makes them even better. With an anti-arch threat of 10, they can do reasonable against some cav. Best paired up with another unit of knights, as they can really hunt down cav or monsters. With that initial charge, you can take it in turns, with each unit of knights holding down the other. While the other unit charges, an effective but difficult to manage micro tactic. Similar in many respects to the Empire Knights, this unit of cav coming in at 900 points, 50 points more than in the Empire version. You get slightly better melee attack and a nice boosted charge. At 60, they can really wreck a unit. They do act some defence and also act for shield, so they're a bit more vulnerable to misfire, so keep a close eye on them. They have your weapon damage, but the power all comes with that charge, so never let them sit still. Anti-Arch Cavalry now, with Knights of the Righteous Spear, and they are excellent at their job. 16 anti-Arch, just watch out for that Euro P of 8. At 1000 points, a really good grindy anti-Arch threat, and can hold their own against most of the Arch targets. Sporting a bronze shield and high defence, they are made to grind the fight, and are where you launch them in and leave them alone, knowing that unless something really special happens, you can come back and they'll still be there fighting strongly. Need some anti-infantry? This is the cav for you. The Knights in Carmine specialise in this, and if you're facing a more infantry focused army, this cav can do some serious work. High melee attack and 8 infantry bonus, but they only act at 8 AP as they only have 8. This unit is great at running down meat shields and chaff units. With that high melee attack, they can rack up the kills. They're not devastating on the charge, but have reasonable melee defense for cav, and of course their high armor of 120. Most shield tier infantry won't be able to do serious damage to them, and they can hold their own against large targets, but best to pick that enemy off with those weak units for quick kills. The heat of the charging units, bringing high damage on a big charge for noble retinue and knights to be respected. Supporting high armor and a bonus versus yard of 10. With their incorrigibility, a useful unit to run over any other cav to boost morale. Excel at a secondary charge into any other cav or monster unit, but his Jack AP need to do some major damage. Still worthy entry into a lot of battles, and of course can do all that damage on a charge to any infantry, making them pretty flexible for their 1200 cost. Onto the missile cav now, and you get the cheap and cheerful first. Yite Scouts at 560 are very cheap and quite versatile. They can do some annoying damage to chaff the world, but are not as effective at doing this as the next unit is. But they are still a really good cheap harasser. A brilliant missile cav now, and a dirt cheap at 620 points. There are nothing not to like about this unit. High speed, excellent range, fire when moving, and high armor as well. This is one of my favourite missile cavs in the game, and is a constant thorn in the opposition side. One with two of these units, and the enemy will have to do something quick to get even near them. Boosting short range damage, these are beefed up pistoliers at 700 points. The Riders with AP Yakking is a brilliant anti-chaff unit, and can chew through them very quickly. Not a huge amount of armor, which is a bit of a drawback, but can do some running down of routing units due to their speed. We can now quickly go over the artillery. Along with the mortar, the Southern Realms have access to a Yite cannon. They are unable to support the Great Cannon of the Empire, but it provides a slightly cheaper version at 750. It uses 100 in range and about 13 damage, but it's still a cannon and it can cause some serious damage to anything it hits. A useful complement to any army. Alongside the Dwarfs have access to their big fearsome cannon. Exactly the same cost at 900 as they would be for the Dwarfs. This is a truly fearsome cannon. It's a step up from the Empires. And of course you get some Dwarfs to man it. Well, dwarf it technically. Along with the Dwarf cannon, you can have a Dwarf organ gun in the army. A truly devastating short range weapon at 1110. To be feared by any enemy, and of course got some Dwarves to come along and help you use it. And that's the last of the new units of the Southern Realms. Hope you found this useful, and I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.